Alright, we have chapter 55 of Bakemonogatari. This is the most recent scanlated chapter. So after this, we're caught up, which is exciting. Araragi realizing, being told by Oshino, that he himself is responsible for abnormalities arriving in town. That it is his vampiric nature, not just an abnormality, but a king among abnormalities, a vampire. The two vampires. Two kings of abnormality in the same town. Old story, past tense, not the present, because you're more or less human right now. During spring break, a bunch of things happened. No? I have to go back to the story at some point, huh? And then he's like, no, we're not going to do it now. So that, of course, is the story of Bakemonogatari, when he gets his vampire powers in the first place, when he first meets Shinobu, and has all sorts of wacky, fun adventures. But for the time being, he is going to summarize Oshino's kind of interpretation of why it led to this situation. Shinobu, in my presence, has brought a lot of bad things here and revitalized them. Also, why I continue to stay in this town. Oh, excuse me. I have to sneeze. Oh, excuse me. All right, anyways. To clean up a few things. I had to, A few things like what? Bad things as in a few things. Can't put it better than that. The biggest target was gathering all of these abnormalities. Thankfully, my business has been thriving. Class rep and Tsundere-chan. Super fun. Okay. And we assume that Oshino is doing stuff in the background, too. Outside of what we see him doing for Araragi. He's always researching. He's always kind of up to stuff. He's probably taking on other people's cases through whatever network he has for finding clients. So, yeah. This whole situation has been kind of a godsend for him, maybe? It's hard to know what he'd be doing were it not for this whole town-wide crisis. That important? That Ofuda thing? Just tell me earlier. I'm the main shrine door, right? A bit lazy when it comes to work. Probably just ward off the bad things away, but only to a certain extent. Some dramatic change and something else will get distorted. Kameru is feeling worse because she had something bad. Better come with me because you knew this would happen. Oh. God, you're energetic as ever. Is it anything good happen? Give and take, alright. Girl paid off her debt from the Rainy Devil incident, right? You have to make them feel some pain or they can't pay back their debt. She did something similar to you and she desired it. Get it? Oh, that's pretty dark. That's pretty dark, and it makes sense that Oshino didn't tell him this explicitly, because I don't think he could be convinced to go along with it. But he was sort of tricked into helping Kanbaru make ends meet on her debt. That Kanbaru had not just, made this wish with the Rainy Devil, and, we know all that stuff. But because of that, there's kind of still this outstanding debt. She didn't suffer enough. Things worked out okay for her. So, as kind of a compromise, and I think all things considered, this isn't a bad compromise. This isn't a bad deal she got. When she goes to the shrine, she feels the weight of that abnormality on her. She feels sickened by the presence of abnormality. Maybe true, I just can't think about things that severe. Yeah, it's just a dark, dark area. You tell Kanbaru that. I don't want to feel indebted to her. I know. But I was okay, though. Why is that? That Yuri girl. Polar opposites of the abnormality ladder. Right. Whereas Kanbaru made a request from the Rainy Devil. She asked it for something. With Araragi, the abnormality asked something of him. So it's really Shinobu who's in debt to Araragi. A city boy like me, I can't help but get worried if something crawls up my leg, even if it's small. For a rough guy like you, you wouldn't worry about bugs at all. That's about it. I'm not sure if I understand this analogy. But I understand the sentiment. And the framing of these panels is just exquisite. Super zoom in on the ant next to his sandals. Yeah, this is really well depicted. Gosh. How do you even think of something like this? How do you even begin to compose a page like this? It requires such confidence, you know? To know that you can pull it off, that you can get this sort of effect. Alright. Should I respond to that? Yeah. I don't know. Let's go straight off of it. How about we go back? Alright. Jagiri Noah abnormality seems to be in a very cornered state. I asked her about what happened. Well, this turns out this kind of thing happens a lot in middle school. Koko didn't go into the details, but all began when Senjoku rejected a certain boy. It was pretty popular, so it seems. These are really hauntingly depicted. The crowd of people cheering on the confession, and then in shocked silence as she rejects him. She had a friend who liked the guy. Former friend is the better term, I think. Yeah, and this whole thing. It's like a house of cards, which is a scene in Bakemonogatari White that I was just reading in the light novel that made me think of that, but whatever. It all falls apart. That girl cast a curse on Sengoku. Turns out the infinite amount of Ofuda nailed onto the sacred tree was that girl's doing. Oh. No schooler went that far just because of that. It's pretty genuine. Popular? Kokuri-san or Charlie, something like that. So those are kind of spooky, supernatural calling games. Kokuri is like pretty much identical to a Ouija board, where you have a coin on a board with letters, you all put your fingers on it, and what really happens, of course, is that people are actually like subtly moving it, and they might not be even aware of it themselves. And as the group suddenly moves it, it starts moving around the board. Ooh, but then, of course, you think, oh, a ghost is doing it, or a fox spirit in this case. Charlie, I think, is something quite similar to the Bloody Mary or like Candyman or whatever, where you can't say a name under certain circumstances or some number of times. Like you stand in front of the mirror and say Charlie, I think. I don't know. I don't really know too well. But I think Araragi is off the mark to make this comparison. It's a whole different sort of beast to try to curse someone. So it was that girl. I thought it was Sengoku herself that put all of those notes that she'd received on the tree. But it was that girl who wrote all of them and put them on the tree as well. I'd forgotten that detail. And it's interesting to me because the cast of Monogatari is like really tight. There's very few characters that are referenced that don't later become fairly major characters in some arc or some plot line or something, right? There's very few characters that are kind of just there for the sake of being there. So I wonder, like, eventually, will this girl become part of the plot as well? I don't know. Being dumb for no apparent reason doesn't seem like a problem. It's a troublesome part, I guess. Well, you like gets dumped. Maybe it was spite because something they loved was treated like garbage. It's enough of a reason for a girl to curse someone. That's what Kamuru said. I don't really get it, though. So, I mean, I know this isn't really the takeaway here, but you gotta wonder, what would happen? What would Kanbaru do if Araragi had rejected Senjo Gahara and she found out? What would Kanbaru do? Would she be even madder about that than the current situation? One wonders. The fact that Kanbaru is the one that was like, that's enough for a girl to curse someone. Friendship is so fickle. That's why I don't make friends. She said that she was reading that book to look for a way to get rid of the curse. I don't know if it's a legit book or not, but it said you'll get rid of the curse if you kill snakes. That sounds like a bunch of lies. Okay. kept reading and reading that book every day, so I figured it out right away. The book naturally opened to that page because it's the only one worn out from Sengoku repeatedly going back to it. Ooh, ooh, I like that. I like that it answers a real nice kind of point of plot convenience. It allows Araragi to find this out. And yet it feels very natural, it feels very realistic. Something like that does happen. If you keep opening a book to the same page, it'll naturally bend open in that way. It'll wear down like that. And yet there's something so haunting, you know, about that indication of repetitive behavior, about all of the many days that you can imagine her going to that bookstore, checking this page again, reconfirming that what she's doing is correct before she heads out to the shrine to slaughter more snakes. Something like that, where there's physical evidence of a really haunting or troubling behavior. The ultimate, of course, is in The Shining, when they find Jack's manuscript, and of course he's just written over and over again. Wait, is his name Jack? Well, he writes, "All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy," over and over and over and over again. But is that just the phrase? Is it Jack Nicholson? Is the character also named Jack? I don't even remember. Okay, it doesn't matter. But just like looking at those pages, looking at all of these typed pages where you just typed out the same thing over and over and over again is like so haunting, you know? Because you're forced to do the imaginative work yourself to figure out the implication of this, to figure out what behavior could have led to this physical state. So haunting. That's the hauntingness of it, right? Dicing up snakes isn't the wrong way to ward off the Jagiri Nawa. He takes off the upside-down cross necklace that he's always wearing. It's not. In this case, it's not actually the snake part, though. It's the rope part. You can clearly see the rope marks that are on those Jumon pots, right? Those aren't actually meant for decoration purposes, feel afraid. Incantations. Ooh. Ooh. Okay, so first off, Jumon pots. Jumon is like one of the first eras of Japan. Yeah, Japanese prehistory. And that's where the Dogu figures come from. I think these guys are really cool. The fact that they're so ancient and they look like this is so interesting to me. So yeah, the Jomon period dated between 14,000 and 300 BCE. So going all the way back to the first inhabitants of Japan, hunter-gatherers, their cultural complexity, the name cord-marked. Subsequently translated into Japanese as Jomon. So there we have it right there. And I can see actually just in the kanji for Jomon, yeah, it's cord sentence, cord marking, cord pattern, right. So yeah, these early potters used cords to decorate and to bind their early pottery, to shape it and such. And you can see the remnants of those cord markings. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, this is all so interesting. Anyways, aren't actually meant for decoration purposes. Oops, my bad. But for incantations. The timers believed that there were bad things inside the food which caused sickness. Even modern doctors even validate this. Well, bad things being like a bacterial infestation. You know, botulism or something. That's a bad thing. It's not a spirit. So they created a barrier with the rope as the means of defense. The construct is widespread in modern Japan. Of course, this is one of the most iconic things about a shrine, So there's all of these intricately woven ropes, sometimes extremely huge, as you can see here, right above the shrine proper, hanging from the roof. There's one of these gigantic straw ropes. And then even these folded paper, I always thought kind of had the association of rope in the way it kind of winds around itself, which of course are so iconic with shrine maidens and all of that. And Jagiri Nawa uses that system, but not for defense. Here it's a means of offense. Basically, it doesn't protect. It closes in on them. You're tied down by the barrier. So Araragi, cat cradled here by Yoshino to illustrate his point. The same tightness of rope that can defend, the same cord that wraps around the pot to ward off the bad things in the food can bind you as well. That's why you should just cut the rope. We think again of the mutilated snakes. Just stuffed around here. Here we go. I like that he's just using the actual supply closets and stuff throughout the cram school, just store things, store abnormal things and seals, and this is some sort of book it looks like. Ooh, we're actually gonna get to see the book. Oh my gosh. What a depiction. How intense. I can't read this at all. I don't know how anyone can read this anymore. I mean, I suppose if I was a Japanese person, I would maybe learn. Actually, I was reading a bit about that, but that's a big tangent. About the classical Japanese script and efforts to kind of preserve it. It's fewer and fewer people can read it fluently. Anyways, this is quite the picture for oh great to emulate this style of hundreds of years old Japanese art with such authenticity and passion, while still getting across like a creepiness to it, which you would never see in any, well, I wouldn't say never see. Actually, there's quite a few printings of this era that have equally disturbing subject matter. Haragi is chilled as he looks through it. Snake marks reach Goku-chan's neck, am I correct? Goes any higher than she's a goner. Doesn't matter how much this middle school girl knew about this curse. Oh boy. This is pretty brutal. This is definitely kind of the really sort of manically grotesque artwork that I see in the works of like Shintaro Kago comes to mind. And also kind of reminds me of some of the more horrific elements in like Yume Nikki and stuff. Yeah, this is a very disturbing page. Very well done, but yeah. So clear evil intent, no. Murderous intent is better. Chagirinawa is an abnormality that's meant to kill people. Alright, the stakes are high. Very, very high indeed. We're not sure if she knew what she was doing when she did it. But Sengoku-chan's former friend, cursed her to death. Cursed her with a curse that is meant to kill people. So what will Araragi do? What can we possibly do? Here's a cute shot of Hajikuji. Oh, what innocent times we were wandering around the city following the lost cow / snail. Now it's all snakes are gonna kill you. Alright, snakes are sure gonna kill you. We are caught up now with that terrifying cliffhanger. Last chapter came out 20 days ago. I have no idea what the actual release schedule is like for this series because we had this 30 chapter scanlation blitz, which has really kind of thrown off my expectations for how frequently I can read this series. I felt like it was only appropriate to respond with a reading blitz of my own, so hopefully you enjoyed that. We will now look forward to just chapters as they come. Hopefully it won't be too long of a wait. But if you're enjoying this, I think this is a series that is wonderful in that it comes through in different ways in different mediums, and that every medium has its own appeal. So I really recommend, if you haven't, to read the light novels, to watch the anime. You know, it's the same story, the same characters, but you get kind of different interpretations of it, different impressions. Different things stand out more So yeah, there's lots and lots of Monogatari if you do enjoy it. While you wait for the manga to continue, and the manga, of course, I'm blown away by it. It's so good. I really didn't know what to expect at all, but it's it's just so dang good. Okay, all right, that's all for now. Bye bye.